What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cav Show. We got NCAA football week 13, the last weekend. Really one of the most important weekends of them all. Look, we got a lot of big games. Shout out to my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They are 6th overall. They're on the outside looking in. And yes, there still is a possibility for Coach Kelly and Notre Dame and company to make the playoffs. Who would have thought? I think this is great. I think Cincinnati, they just won tonight, and I do think Cincinnati should get in there. I really do. I think, we understand that they do have a weak schedule, but, with Desmond and everything they got right now, Cincinnati, I do believe, deserves to get in that 4th spot. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, we got Georgia at number 1. They're the top dogs. Well-deserved, only giving up 7.5 points a game. That defense is great. Then we have Ohio State. I cannot wait for Ohio State and Michigan. This is going to be the biggest game all weekend. They're at number 2. Then obviously Bama at 3. Then Cincy at 4. I just think for Alabama, if they end up losing even in the SEC championship, I think they're done. They don't deserve to be in the college football playoff with a 2-loss. I don't think any 2-loss team out there should deserve to get in the college football playoff. There's no excuses. I mean, seriously, we're really going to put a 2-loss team in there? No, they shouldn't do that. It would be super political if they do end up putting Bama in there with a 2-loss. That'd be insane. I don't think that's going to happen. Then, obviously, Michigan's at 5 right now. And then we got Notre Dame at number 6. Notre Dame, they are playing at Stanford this weekend. Look, another really easy game. Stanford's not really good this year. Yes, they did beat Oregon. That's basically their biggest win. And Notre Dame's coming into this game 20-point favorites, and I expect Notre Dame to handle business. Who does it start with? It starts with their quarterback, Jack Cohn. He's got 1,815 yards passing. Actually, he has 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Excuse me, he has over 2,200 yards passing. And the difference right here for Notre Dame is Kyron Williams. If they can continue to run the ball well with Kyron, I think this is really an easy game for Notre Dame. If they stick to their P's and Q's and stick what they've been doing all year, running the ball great with Kyron, I think that's going to be great. And Jack Cohn's been balling out recently, so I think it's all Notre Dame. Am I going to take the 20 points? No. I'm going to go Notre Dame. I'm going to go the money line, though. I just think, the 20-point spread is a lot. It's a little too much for me right now, being at the last game of the season, but I think for Notre Dame, if they win this game and win by over 20 points, I do think Notre Dame can get in that 4th seed. I really do. I believe that. And who would have thought that, though? When they lost to Cincinnati earlier this year, I said, you know what? Notre Dame, they're not going to make the playoffs. They do still have a chance. It's a slight chance, but they still have a chance. No disrespect to Stanford. Tanner McKee, he's a nice quarterback, over 2,100 yards passing with 14 touchdowns, 7 picks. But the weakness for Stanford is their defense. They've given up 31 points a game, dude. 31, dude. So I like Notre Dame all day in this matchup. I'll take money line Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame can win by 17. They should win by over 20 if they want to make the playoffs. They got to blow this team out. They got to make it, great. They got to do it in a great fashion way. So I think Coach Kelly's going to have them ready. I really do. And hats off to Coach Kelly. Another 10-plus win season for Notre Dame. Obviously, we still haven't got that national championship, but I'm telling you what, right now, with Coach Kelly, the recruits he has coming in next year, I do believe Notre Dame, we are getting closer to that national title. I really do believe that. We say it every year. I know that. But I'm telling you, right now, we got the talent coming in. There's no excuse. Plus, Coach Kelly's a great coach. I like Notre Dame all day in this matchup. Then we got Georgia versus Georgia Tech. This is another rival. Look, for Georgia, they're coming in as heavy favorites, which, it makes sense. So they're number 1 team in the country. They are the team to beat, and it starts with their defense. Only giving up 7.5 points a game all year. That is crazy, dude. I'm telling you what, Georgia, obviously, they're the clear favorite to win it. I'm telling you what right now, if you guys were sports betting and you had $1 million, I would tell you to put $1 million on Georgia right now. I would tell you. Why? Because the old cliche, defense wins championships. And it's so true, dude. It is so true. And it starts with their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, 17 touchdowns, 5 picks, 1,730 yards passing. And then the running back, Zymeer White, he's nice, 657 yards rushing this year with 10 touchdowns. And Brock Bowers, he has 8 touchdowns touchdowns, 552 yards receiving. I think they're just going to mix it up on Georgia Tech and really just destroy them. I do believe that. I think it will be close in the first half. I really do. But I think Georgia's going to pull away in the second half. And really, Georgia, I'm telling you what, they stomped their ticket. Even if they do end up losing in the SEC championship, I still think Georgia will get in no matter what. So the resume speaks for itself this year. They really dominated every single game this year in a fashionable way and really old school smash mouth football. I'm going to run the ball on you. I'm also going to throw it, but I'm going to hit you hard when you come across the middle every time. And that defense, it's the best defense in the country. So I like Georgia all day here. Would I take the spread right now? It's 35. I mean, the spreads are crazy. I would go money line Georgia all day in this matchup. Yes, you're not going to get a lot of money doing the money line, but hey, at least you're going to get something back. So I would go heavy on Georgia money line. 54.5 is the over-under. I'll probably go with the over as well in this matchup, but I love Georgia all day. They're the team to beat. Go Georgia Dogs. Then we got Ohio State versus Michigan. The biggest game all weekend. I don't care what anybody says. The best rivalry right now. I'm telling you what, it's crazy. Ohio State in the last 16 matchups, they are 15-1. And Ohio State has won 8 straight games against Michigan. The last time Michigan won was 2011, dude. The year I graduated high school was when they won. That is crazy, dude. I'm telling you what, Coach Harbaugh, he's 0-5 right now against Ohio State. And if you're the Michigan coach, what is the goal there? You have to beat Ohio State. And I think if Coach Harbaugh does lose this game, it's not going to look good. It isn't, dude. I mean, this game right here, legends are made. And I think for Coach Harbaugh and Michigan, if they do win, they go to the Big Ten Championship, win that, they're in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So this is really what you guys play for right now. At Michigan, for everything right now, Cade McNamara, their quarterback, he's going to have to play great. 14 touchdowns, 2 picks this year, 2,142 yards passing. Had a great year, really, though. Let's give it off to them. Then the running back, Haskins, he has over 1,000 yards rushing with 13 touchdowns. I think Michigan, if they stay in this game, they're going to have to run the ball well on Ohio State and obviously put pressure on their quarterback, C.J. Stroud. And C.J. Stroud, dude, he's a baller, dude. 3,615 yards passing, dude. I mean, I'm telling you what. Actually, 3,468 yards passing, and he has 36 touchdowns, only 5 picks. So I think right now for Ohio State, they understand what they're going up against right now. They understand it is Michigan. They understand they have won the 8 in a row. They don't care about that. All they care about is winning. Okay, winning, because Ohio State right now, they're 2 in the country, and they're so close from getting into this playoff spot where I just don't see Michigan winning this game. I don't. Talent-wise, I will give the edge to Ohio State. Just eyeballing the teams, I will give the edge to Ohio State. They're coming in, the away team, coming into the big house, 7-point favorites. This is going to get interesting. Henderson, they're running back over 1,000 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns. I think the running backs on both Ohio State and Michigan, this is definitely an X factor of the run game. Because if they become one-dimensional and just pass it the whole time, it makes it easy on the defense. Let's put pressure on the quarterback and have good pass protection. It really boils down to that. So I just think for each team, Ohio State and Michigan, the quarterback plays just as important as the running back play, obviously. But I think the defenses right now, who has the better defense? I would say Ohio State right now. I would say all day Ohio State. I just don't see Michigan winning. We saw Michigan lose to Michigan State, and we saw what Ohio State did to Michigan State. Really embarrassed them. But, this is 2 different teams right now, and this is the rivalry, I'm telling you what, that's been around for so long. Dude, I don't even, I just can't wait. I kind of do want to see a fight. I want to see a scuffle. We look back, the most recent fight that I remember was back in 2013, and they were yapping at each other before the game even started. And we had a running back hit the Ohio State player coming back in there. It's just great. It's just great for college football. I think it's great for everything. But you know what? I'm going to Ohio State here. I'm betting with my mind, and I'm telling you what right now. I think C.J. Stroud is focused in, locked in, and I think he understands, hey, this is my moment right now. Everything that I did leading up to this is irrelevant right now. It's all about beating Michigan in this game. Same thing for Michigan. I think it's going to be a great first half, but I do think Ohio State's going to pull away in the second half. I do think Michigan could take an early lead. I really do. But you know what? For Coach Harbaugh, it's going to be another long offseason for you if you do not win this game. All the pressure's on Michigan right now. Like I said, Ohio State is 15-1 in the last 16 games. Dude, that's crazy, dude. Ohio State's won 8 straight, so I like Ohio State all day. I think C.J. Stroud, they get it done. I think the Ohio State defensive line's going to put pressure on Cade, cause him to throw a couple picks. I like Ohio State all day in this matchup. I'll take Ohio State at 7. It's going to be interesting. 64.5 is the over-under. I'll probably go with the under, but you know what? I like Ohio State at 7 all day in this matchup. Then we got Texas Tech versus Baylor. Baylor's 14-point favorites. Look, Gary Bohannon, their quarterback, he's got 2,160 yards passing with 17 touchdowns, only 6 picks. Abraham Smith, he's got over 1,200 yards rushing, dude, and 11 touchdowns. I like Baylor in this matchup. I'll take the 14. I don't think Texas Tech is really that good this year. They haven't really, but they're not. Their offensive line is trash. Their quarterback is decent. 5 touchdowns, 5 picks for Henry. I just think, when it boils down to it, yes, Thompson, their running back for Texas Tech, he's going to have a breakout game. He's got 431 yards rushing this year, 9 touchdowns. I just think for Texas Tech, they've given up 32.5 points a game. 32. So, you know what? I'm going Baylor all day in this matchup at 14. 52's the over-under. I'll probably go with the over, but I like Baylor all day in this matchup. Then we got Wake Forest versus Boston College. Another classic matchup, another classic rivalry. Look, Wake Forest, they're coming in at 4.5-point favorites. Obviously, they lost to Clemson last week. Sam Hartman, we got to give it up to him. He's had a great year this year, 3,475 yards passing with 31 touchdowns, 9 picks. I think he's going to have a great game. I think he's ready. This is the last game of the season. Yes, Wake Forest will be in a bowl game. We do know that. A.T. Perry over 1,000 yards receiving, over 1,000 yards receiving and 11 touchdowns. And Wake Forest are averaging over 42 points a game, dude. So they're putting up crazy numbers. Yes, they've given up about 31 points a game, but I think Wake Forest offensively, they can score on anybody. We know that. So I like Wake Forest all day in this matchup at 4.5. Yes, Boston College, they're going to come out and play. Their quarterback, Dennis, he's got 6 touchdowns, 7 picks this year. I just think, for Wake Forest, they're going to put pressure on them. And I just think, Boston College, they've given up 20.5 points a game. Really don't score that much. So, therefore, I'm going Wake Forest, Sam Hartman, and Wake Forest all day in this matchup. I'll take the 4.5. Then we have another classic rivalry. We have Alabama versus Auburn. Look, this is great. Alabama's coming in at 20.5-point favorites. Do not take this spread. This is dumb. I keep telling you guys who's betting on Alabama, you're taking the spreads. That's dumb. You got to go money line, because, in the past, a month, Alabama hasn't covered their spread. They haven't. Yes, Bryce Young, he's been balling out. Over 3,500 yards passing, 38 touchdowns, 3 picks this year. He's a baller, dude. He really is, man. Bryce Young, shout out to him. Then we got Brian Robinson Jr., their running back. He's got 14 touchdowns, almost 1,000 yards rushing. And then Williams, their star receiver, over 1,200 yards receiving and 13 touchdowns. Obviously, Bama, they always have the talent. Oh, man, recovering from COVID, I hate it. They always have the talent. They always have the talent, Alabama. But Auburn, Bo Nix, they've had an up-and-down season this year. We saw what they did against Penn State. I just think for Auburn, they're going to have to play the best game of their whole season boiled down to this game right here. They have to. Bo Nix, over 2,200 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. Tank Bigsby, 10 touchdowns, 940 yards rushing. I just think for Tank Bigsby and Auburn, they got to get that run game going. You do not want to be a one-dimensional team against Alabama. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm going to go Alabama money line, though. I'm not going to go the spread at 20.5. That is crazy. We saw, years ago, Auburn upset Alabama when Alabama kicked that, 52-yarder. And we saw Auburn running all the way for the touchdown for the game, dude. That was one of the most crazy games I've ever seen live. That was crazy, but I'm going Bama. But roll tide, I'll go money line. I think 20.5 is a little too much. But I think Coach Saban and Alabama, they understand we have to win this game. Because if we lose this game, we're done. In the next week, the SEC Championship, they're going to have to play Georgia. And if they lose to Georgia in the SEC Championship, Bama's out. They're not out. They will not make the college football playoff. They're done, dude. So, at the end of the day, I think Bama, they're going to have to win. I love Bama. Roll tide. I'll take money line all day in this matchup. Then we got Oregon State versus Oregon. Oregon 7-point favorites. They lost to Utah last week, got blown out. Really not a good game. Anthony Brown, yes, he had a decent game. Over 2,200 yards passing with 13 touchdowns, 4 picks. Travis Dye, he's got 937 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. But you know what? Oregon, their weakness is their defense. They've given up 24 points a game. Same thing with Oregon State. They've given up about 24, 25 points a game. You know, for Chase Nolan, their quarterback, he's going to have a great game. 17 touchdowns, 8 picks this year, over 2,100 yards passing. B.J. Baylor, he's got 1,200 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. I think for B.J. Baylor, he's going to have a breakout game for Oregon State. If they're going to win this game and be in this game against Oregon, they're going to have to do something different. They're going to have to throw some curveballs against Oregon, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go Oregon. It's a disappointing ending season for Oregon. Losing to Utah last week, the way they did it, you know, for all the marbles, they were the number 3 team in the country. Really, Oregon controlled their destiny, and they failed to do it. But I'm going to go Oregon. I would love to see Oregon State win with the upset, but you know what? I'm going to go Oregon all day in this matchup. Then we got Penn State versus Michigan State. Michigan State lost to Ohio State. They got annihilated. Really embarrassing. You know, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to take anything away from Michigan State. What they did this year, great season. Peyton Thorne, 2,618 passing yards, and also 22 touchdowns and 8 picks. But the X factor for Michigan State is their running game, and that starts with Kenneth Walker. I do think he should win Heisman. Yes, he didn't have a great game against Ohio State, but Ohio State kind of took him out of the game. They went up like 21-0, you know, in the first quarter, 28-0, something crazy like that. So it's like, what can you do? You can't run the ball anymore. You have to throw it. But I think Kenneth Walker, amazing season, 1,498 yards rushing and 17 touchdowns. He's up in the Heisman, no doubt. Jaden Reed, he's got 557 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. I like Michigan State here. Yes, they are the underdog. Yes, they are playing at home. I think Penn State, you know, their X factor is definitely their quarterback in Dotson, their star receiver, who's had over 1,000 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. Sean Clifford, I think he's going to have a good game. You know, 17 touchdowns, 6 picks this year. But I'm telling you what, they're going to have to stop Dotson, because if Dotson gets out in the open field, he can let tacklers miss him. He's got that agility to do it. So I think Penn State, obviously, yes, they should be favorite. But you know what? I'm going to go Michigan State Spartans with the upset at home. I think Kenneth Walker's going to have another Heisman game moment and solidify the Heisman winner right here. And this is the game for Kenneth Walker to do it. So I like Michigan State over Penn State. Then we got Wisconsin versus Minnesota. Wisconsin 7-point favorites. Graham Mertz, LK season this year, 9 touchdowns, 9 picks, over 1,600 yards passing. You know, I just think for Wisconsin and Minnesota, they're kind of similar teams, have a good offensive line. You know, not the best athletes in the country. Yes, they got athletes, but, you know, I think their weakness is their defense. Tanner Morgan, he's got 9 touchdowns, 7 picks this year, over 1,700 yards passing. If Minnesota wants to win, it starts with Tanner. He's going to have to, you know, have a ball-out game, no picks, you know, really play flawlessly. But you know what? I'm going to go Wisconsin. I'm going to go money line now. I think this game's going to be a little bit closer than what we're expecting, you know, than the 7. But I'm going to go money line. I wouldn't be opposed of you guys picking Wisconsin with the 7, but I like Wisconsin money line all day in this matchup. Then we got Texas A&M versus LSU. LSU's playing for a bowl game. If they don't win, they do not even make a bowl game this year. They only got 5 wins right now. You know, LSU, yes, all the pressure's on them. Max Johnson, he's had a pretty okay season but for that quarterback. But I just think, you know, the difference for Texas A&M is Isaiah Spiller, their running back as well. He's had a great season this year too. 984 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. Zach, their quarterback, Texas A&M, he's got 14 touchdowns, 9 picks, over 1,900 yards passing. I like Texas A&M in this matchup. I'd love to see LSU get the upset, you know, playing at home, playing for a bowl game. So I do think LSU is playing for more. So I wouldn't be opposed of you guys picking the upset LSU right here. But you know what? I'm going to go Texas A&M at 6.5. I just think Texas A&M's been more battle-tested, and they beat Bama this year. So, you know, their resume really speaks for itself. So I'm going to go Texas A&M at 6.5 over LSU all day. Then we got another rivalry, another huge game, Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, they're 7th right now, and me being a Notre Dame fan, we're 6th, so I'd love to see Oklahoma win. You know, obviously I'm rooting for Oklahoma. I think Caleb Williams, he's coming on the scene. He's got 15 touchdowns, 4 picks this year. Last week he had a touchdown and interception against Iowa State. We saw some good runs from Caleb as well. Kennedy Brooks, he's got 972 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns for Oklahoma. If Oklahoma wins this game, they're going to have to put pressure on Spencer Sanders, the quarterback for Oklahoma State. They're going to have to force him to do some bad decisions, and obviously Caleb Williams is going to have to continue to do what he's doing. Run the ball well, scramble out, use the bootleg, utilize the play action, throw the ball down the field. And I think, 49.5 is the over-under. I'd go with the over in this matchup. I think it's going to be high scoring. Both these teams are 10-1. So I think this is going to be a great matchup. Spencer Sanders, a great season as well. Almost 2,000 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks this year. Jalen Warren over 1,000 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns for Oklahoma State. I think this is going to be a nail-biter. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Whoever's going to have the ball last, I believe it's going to win. So you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and go Oklahoma Sooners. I think Caleb Williams, what he did this year, really turning around Oklahoma and coming in that Texas game. I love Oklahoma over Oklahoma State in a shootout. This is going to be so close. I cannot wait. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma State wins. Obviously, they're favored by 4.5, but I would love to see Oklahoma win, dude. We're rooting for Oklahoma. Every Notre Dame fan out there is rooting for Oklahoma, so I'm going Oklahoma Sooners all day in this matchup. Go Oklahoma. Then we got Pittsburgh versus Syracuse. Pittsburgh's 12.5-point favorites. Pittsburgh, what a year. Only lost two games this year. Kenny Pickett, their quarterback, he's the difference maker, man. Over 3,857 yards passing, 36 touchdowns, 6 picks this year. I'm telling you what, he balled out. And Jordan Addison, their star receiver, he's got 1,272 yards receiving and 15 touchdowns. I think these two are going to be on the same page, just like they've been all year. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh all day in this matchup. I just think for Syracuse, they do have a great running back as well. Shout out to Sean Tucker. What a season, dude. 1,467 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. He's one of the top running backs in college football as well. I think Kenneth Walker's the best, but he's definitely in the top 3, no doubt about it. Shout out to Sean Tucker. And then Garrett Schrader, their quarterback, he's got 7 touchdowns, 4 picks this year, over 1,228 yards passing. But you know what? I think this is going to be a close game up until the fourth quarter, and I think Pittsburgh is going to pull away with Kenny Pickett. I like Pittsburgh with the money line, though. I think 12.5 is a little too much. This being the last week of the season, I think these teams really start to tighten up defensively, just tighten up every aspect, special teams, offensively, defensively. So I like Pittsburgh all day with the money line. Pittsburgh all day. Then we got Clemson versus South Carolina. Clemson is 11.5-point favorites. Really, it's been a disappointing season for Clemson. Getting upset by NC State earlier this year. Losing games that really we're used to seeing Clemson win. In Clemson, it's normally Clemson and Alabama since like 2015, since 2016. So I think for Clemson and Coach Sweeney, they're looking forward to next year. Yes, they're going to have a bowl game, but it's not going to be for a national championship. It's not. And DJU, their quarterback, he's had an okay season, over 1,900 yards passing with 9 touchdowns, 8 picks. Will Shipley, he's got 9 touchdowns on 550 yards rushing for Clemson. I think for South Carolina, yes, they're going to have to do something different. Luke Doty, their quarterback, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks this year. Josh Venn, he's got 641 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns for South Carolina. But I'm going to go Clemson the last game of the season. I think Clemson wins. I'll go money line. I think a lot of these spreads at the end of the season are difficult sometimes. Yes, sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. I just like going money line. So I like money line Clemson Tigers all day in this matchup. 43 is the over/under. I'll probably go with the over, and I like Clemson Tigers over South Carolina. Then we got BYU versus USC. USC is going to miss a bowl game this year. They've only won 4 games. They've been really trash. Obviously, it's not the USC that we're used to seeing with Reggie Bush, one of the best college football running backs we've ever seen, Matt Leinart, those type of guys. But I just think, for USC, that their X factor is their best player on offense is Drake London. He's having over 1,000 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. But USC, their defense is their weakness. 32 points allowed per game. That is piss poor, dude. That's trash. That's rubbish. I like BYU in this matchup. I'll take the 7 points. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if USC does win this. I really want it. Yes, but they've only won 4 games, so it's hard to pick USC right now. And I think Jared Hall, their quarterback, he's legit. 18 touchdowns, only 3 picks this year. And then Tyler Allinger, he's got over 1,300 yards rushing and 18 touchdowns. I think BYU's going to run all over USC. I think they're going to throw with Jared and run with Tyler. So I like BYU all day in this matchup at 7. I love that. But, what a weekend for college football. The last weekend until the bowl games. It's been a great season for college football. It really has. Obviously, I do think the biggest game yet is definitely 100% Ohio State at Michigan. If Coach Jim Harbaugh wants to stay in Michigan, he has to beat Ohio State. You're 0-5. There's no more excuses for Coach Harbaugh in the Michigan Wolverines. You guys, I'm telling you what, lost 8 straight against your rival, dude. You just can't do that. I just want to see a competitive game here. I want to see Michigan come out and really, throwing some haymakers and coming in and saying, hey, we're Michigan Wolverines. We're here to play, okay? We're not going to get blown out like we typically have been in the recent years. So I think, a huge matchup. And obviously my Notre Dame Fighting Irish is going to handle business. I hope they get that 4 seed. But Ohio State, I'm telling you what, they're the better team. I'm going Ohio State Buckeyes over Michigan. It's college football. It's the last weekend. Let's go!